had people tell me that they would describe their dog as their soulmate. Can you imagine training your soulmate? Really? I mean, I don't think we really put this into words. I know I hadn't for the longest time. I remember years ago, I kind of said that. I was like, I kind of don't want to train my dog. And not from the whole, like, let a dog be a dog, but just from a whole, like, the bond that I share with them. I don't really want to train them. Like training, like bossing them around and making them do things. Like I wouldn't do that to a soulmate. I wouldn't do that to a best friend. If that's the kind of bond and connection you have with your dog, there's probably a little bit of resistance to this idea of training and how you feel about it. So I want to kind of clarify it a little bit for you to make it easier. Because for me, I stopped calling it training a long time ago, and I started calling it communication. This episode, does your dog really need more obedience training? Hint, if they know how to sit and come, but they still don't do it, this episode is for you, my friend. I am diving into the concept of obedience versus beyond obedience. When do you use obedience? When do you go beyond obedience? We're digging into all of that today. Let's get into it. Ready to have a calm and peaceful life with your dog without the stress of those fear-based behaviors? Hi, I'm Tracy, and I've been there. Overwhelmed by all the conflicting dog training advice and unsure of what to do next. But now I help dog lovers like you simplify your life with your dog by building confidence naturally, fostering trust, and addressing those fear-based challenges. So, if you're ready, stop chopping those chicken wieners and let's get to it. Hey there, friend. Do you ever feel like your dog is just, wired a little differently? Like no matter what training you've tried, they're still skittish, stubborn, or reactive? Well, that's because your dog has a unique Dogonality. Yes, that is a thing. And I created a free Dogonality quiz to help you better understand how your dog thinks, feels, and learns. It's fun, it's quick, and the insights might just change everything about how you live and love your dog. So go take that quiz right now at beyondobedience.ca/quiz and be sure to tell me what you got inside the Facebook group. I'll see you there. Hey there, my dog-loving friend. It is Tracy. Welcome to Beyond Obedience, the podcast. Oh, I tell you, we're going to be talking about the obedience today. Oh, the obedience. I'm going to actually sort of bust some myths. I'm also going to give you permission to, if you want to release some of the ideas around obedience about how, like, should my dog get more obedience? Because I'll tell you right now, whenever you have a problem with your dog, and you Google it, what do you Google? If we were doing a live right now, I'd be like, tell me in the comments, what are you Googling? Like, most of the times you're going to be Googling, like, how do I get my dog to stop pulling on the leash, or how do I get my dog to whatever. And you are inevitably going to get a bunch of sponsored ads. That's what Google is now. But you are most likely going to get, some references to attend dog obedience school, or, all of these different obedience things. And you're going to have this overwhelming sense of, oh, my dog just needs more obedience. Whenever your dogs are doing stuff, we always have this, my dog just needs more training. My dog needs more obedience. And what if I were to tell you that that's probably not the case? Ugh. And there you are Googling all the things and thinking, like, my dog needs to figure out more obedience. Like, I gotta do more reps. I gotta do more things. And I'm here to tell you that might not be true. That might not be true, because, hey, if they know sit, but they still don't do it, this episode's for you. This episode's for you. Here's your litmus test, okay? Here's your litmus test. What is it? Litmus test. That's a chemistry term or something, right? Litmus test. What's that litmus test? Litmus test. Am I saying the word right? Sounds wrong in my head. Anyway, here's the test. Does your dog, you're going to ask yourself this. Does your dog know sit, stay, maybe even come, even if they only do it some of the time? Meaning your dog knows what it is that you want, but they're just not doing it. If you answered yes to that, guess what? You've done it, friend. You've done it. Your dog's trained. Well done. You taught your dog that when you say this word, you're supposed to do this thing. So teaching your dog more words isn't going to make that any better. You know what I'm saying? Like, doing more of what's not working isn't going to make that work. You know what I'm saying? I mean, some people are going to argue and be like, you need to do more repetitions, or you need to proof it, or you need to do it in like all of that stuff. Yeah. Maybe true. However, it's not that your dog doesn't understand. It's just that they're not listening to you. So it's not about knowledge necessarily. It's more about connection. Like, you need to ask yourself, why isn't my dog listening to me? That answer might hurt your heart a little bit, but that introduces this core shift, right? There's a core shift here. Like, the gap between knowing and doing, that is actually relationship. That's where all the things we talk about here in Beyond Obedience come into play. That's why arguably you'll hear me say, I'm not saying your dog doesn't need, obedience, but you also need this stuff, the stuff that I'm talking about. You can't have obedience without this stuff. Well, I mean, you can, and I see it all the time. There's lots of really well-trained dogs that don't have great relationships with their owners. You know what I'm saying? Right? But you can't have that. Whereas you can have a dog that's got great relationship with their owner and not a lot of obedience. You can have that. You can totally have that. I was talking to my friends the other day, and we were actually talking about the incredible bond and connection and relationship that dogs that are on the streets with their people, how beautifully connected they are. And they don't have a lot of obedience, right? They're just beautifully bonded and connected to those people. That's a whole other story. But I wanted to sort of recognize the difference between obedience versus beyond obedience. See what I did there? Okay, so first let's break it down. You probably heard me say this before, but if you haven't, I'm going to say it again. To me, the way I define obedience is like English as a second language, or whatever language you speak as a second language, right? Fun fact, I just started to learn Italian. So I was about to drop a great Italian word there. You can tell it's only been lesson one and I've forgotten everything. Arrivederci. There you go. I remembered something. But anyway, it's English as a second language. Okay. So I believe, and I do truly believe this, I think it's important to teach your dogs English as a second language. I'm not saying that is not important. I think it is important to have a shared language with your dog. And this is a very helpful in structured environments like vet clinics, outdoor cafes, taking your dog to other public places. I think it's important, right? Not to mention the safety words, right? Coming when they're called is a safety thing for sure. All of that good stuff. So in contrast to that, would that be the same as opposite? I'm really struggling today. Beyond obedience is shared communication, or it's learning the dog's language. Okay. Beyond obedience is about body language and energy and intent, that unspoken, You just kind of know what I mean, connection, that deeper sort of connection. So here's a great rule of thumb for you. If you're like, where do I use obedience? Where do I use beyond obedience? In Humansville, use obedience. If you're in Humansville doing human stuff where there's rules that make no sense to the dogs, this is where you're going to use some obedience, right? But if you're in nature, this is a great opportunity to go beyond obedience, right? So Humansville, structure, rules, safety, leash laws, concrete jungle, kids, all of these things, buses. I still remember the first time my dog Mariah, I had taken her into town or into a city to do a consult. And it was the first time she ever saw a city bus. And the fact that in the middle of this bus, doors open and it spewed out people scared the bejesus out of her. Because it went like, and then all these people piled out. She was like, what is that? Anyway, so when you're in the city, you might need a little bit of obedience. I'm just saying. But in nature, that's your moment to be more fluid, more instinctual, more relational, right? Like you get on a trail, this could even be a quiet yard. And this is where you get to have like real dog time, not just allowing the dog to be a dog, but actually, getting in there with them, like letting them lead for a little bit, seeing the world through a dog's eyes. It's magical if you do it, right? I think we all need to do it nowadays. I'm just saying. Yeah, you just, honestly, life right now. So here, like at Beyond Obedience, we're not just tossing training. Like we're not like saying like, no training, but we're learning actually how to speak dog. That's the difference. We're letting the dogs train us. That's what we're doing. We're asking the dogs. We're deferring to the dogs. We're really trying to connect and bond with them because when in Rome, oh my gosh, I brought up Italy again. It's a thing. I want to go to Italy. So I'm acting as if, and I'm saying arrivederci and ciao. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I said 2 words. I know 2 words already. Practically fluent in Italian now. What was I talking about? Oh, right. When in Rome. When in Rome. When in Rome, you do what the Romans do and you speak Roman. But when with a dog, why not learn to be dog? Like, why not do dog? Just be a dog. It's fun. Right. And so I wanted to talk a little bit more about this. And then I know I mentioned the Dogonality quiz. The reason why I brought that up at the beginning of this is because I actually want to talk a little bit about Dogonality. So I'm going to break this into 2. But I wanted to talk a little bit more about this idea of the fluidity of going from obedience to beyond obedience, right? When do we do that? This question comes up a lot from any of my students working within the Fearless framework. Because we talk so much about beyond obedience. We talk so much. And for those that are really starting to get into it, for those of us that are really, really trying to experience and to really learn and understand dogs. And when I say that, like not just the whole, like, this is like a loose tail wag and this is a stress signal. I'm talking about know a dog. Like, know a dog. Like that's what we're doing. And more importantly, we're focusing in on how we're communicating to the dog, how our body, how our energy, how our intent is affecting our dogs. That's the magic sauce. Anyway, I digress. I get really excited about it. I'm maybe a little excited because we just had like one of the students gave me an incredible video and I got to do a video analysis of it and just like, it was so fascinating. It was awesome. Anyway, we're all talking about it now in the group, like, anyway, so I'm a little bit more excited about it, but that's what we're talking about. We're talking about our part in the conversation of dog, right? Beyond obedience. And the reason why I believe it's important, I'm going off on a tangent, but whatever, we're here now. The reason why I think it's important is because the words you say, the obedience terms you use doesn't hold the same weight and value as the dog that you're talking right? Because whether or not you think, like, you're still communicating in a language that they're trying to understand, and you don't even know you're doing it. So once you become aware, once you start to see, oh, I'm standing here, or my energy is like this, and that's affecting, it opens up everything for you. It's amazing. Anyway, so one of the common questions inside that program, because because my students are out there doing weird things with their dogs. They're going and smelling things and finding sticks and sticking their head in, trees, rotten tree stumps. And this is when you moved away from the podcast and was like, not today, Tracy, just... But if you agree to be a little weird with me, I'm telling you, it's magical. But because my students are doing all of those things, one of the common questions is, when should I switch to obedience? Like, when do I do that? And I want to be fluid with it. And I want it to not seem like I'm being bossy all of a sudden, because we've been in nature and we've been doing all this stuff for the dog, and now I'm going to be bossy. And I love this question so much. And it really the answer to it actually comes down to reframing it in your mind. So when we reframe what obedience is and training is in general, for many of us, myself included, because of this feeling I have of such a deep bond and connection with my dogs, and I really do feel it, and I know you do too, there is something about the idea of quote unquote training or being bossy to my dog that doesn't feel good to me. I've had people tell me that they would describe their dog as their soulmate, which is like, can you imagine training your soulmate? Like, really? I mean, I don't think we really put this into words. I know I hadn't for the longest time. I remember years ago, I kind of said that. I was like, I kind of don't want to train my dog. Right? And not from the whole, like, let a dog be a dog, but just from a whole, like, the bond that I share with them. I don't really want to train them. Like, training, like bossing them around and making them do things. Like, I wouldn't do that to a soulmate. I wouldn't do that to a best friend. If that's the kind of bond and connection you have with your dog, there's probably a little bit of resistance to this idea of training and how you feel about it. So I want to kind of clarify it a little bit for you to make it easier. Because for me, I stopped calling it training a long time ago, and I started calling it communication. I mentioned at the beginning where I said, for me, obedience is teaching your dog English as a second language, and I think we should have a shared language with their dog. Doesn't that sound nice? Right? Doesn't that sound nice? I would hope that as I am learning Italian, if I were to try and have a conversation with someone from Italy, that they would have compassion and help me learn their language so that I could understand them. I would hope that they would share with me and guide me through Italy to share their customs and rituals that I don't understand. That's the part that I kind of infuse into my thinking now when I think about dogs. When I think about dogs and bringing them into a human world, bringing them into Humansville, to say to them, I'm going to help you. We're going to build a shared communication when we're in Humansville so that you understand, so that you can settle in. I'm going to share with you the customs and call them rules, sure, the boundaries, whatever, the leash laws and all of the things that happen in Humansville that make no sense to dogs. I got stuck there. Perimeters, like yards and fences and all of those things make no sense to dogs. And so we have to kind of guide them through that. We have to have this shared language. But I balance that with I'm also going to try to understand you. I'm also going to, when we're in your element, I'm going to share that with you and try to understand you and be a part of this with you. And that balance that we create is where the magic happens. That balance between the two is where the magic happens. So if you are feeling a little bit like, I don't want to train my best friend, I don't want to train my soulmate, and it's not feeling good to you, I'm hoping that this helps you kind of, ease into this a little bit better, because then it just becomes, in Humansville, we have to speak Humansville. We got to speak the obedience. But in nature, let's go beyond obedience. Let's learn your stuff. Let's be there for you. And I really hope that helps. I know inside the program, it has really helped many of the students, because as I say, once you start doing the beyond obedience stuff and you start seeing the bond and the connection that you get with your dog, there's a party that's like, oh, I kind of like this, but also reality, I have to walk the dog on a leash in this park, or I have to walk past this, dog that's lunging and whatnot. And I have to give my dog some guidance. And so reframing it that way really helps. Now, one last component of this, where are we at? I'll add this in. I probably should have done this as a separate entity, but I wanted to talk a little bit just about your dog's unique dogonality, because this too is also going to shape how much obedience your dog needs. And this is why every dog is different. So if you haven't already taken the Dogonality quiz, right, you can do that at goingbeyondobedience.ca/quiz. Take the Dogonality quiz. Now, please do me a favor and answer the questions on the quiz as if, my dogs are barking, as if your dog has had no training. Please do it that way. I'm just going to pause for 1 second and see why my dogs are going crazy. Hold on, please. Turns out my husband came home early. Shh, stop talking about Mark. He's home. That's why my dogs were doing their joyful celebration. Somebody's home barking. That's fun. All right. Getting back to it. So when you take the quiz, I want you to take it as if the dog hasn't been trained. So questions like, if I open the door, I don't know if this is in the quiz, but if I open the door, does my dog bolt out? If you're like, no, my dog no longer bolts out the door because I trained them not to do that, I want you to act as if you haven't done training. What was your dog's natural inclination, right? Was it to bolt and run and all of that stuff? Answer the question, because we're looking for their innate qualities. Okay. Now, for those of you that have taken the Dogonality quiz, part of me didn't want to have this discussion about obedience versus beyond obedience, or talking about, does your dog actually need more obedience, until you've taken the Dogonality quiz. And the reason for that is because every dog is different. Every dog is different. This is why there's no one training methodology that works for all dogs. There's no one training equipment that works for all dogs. I always get frustrated when people are like, I would never use that piece of equipment, and I've had 3 dogs in my lifetime and I've never had to use that piece of equipment, and they've all been golden retrievers. You don't know. You don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you don't know. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, my point is this: every dog is different. And so I wanted to kind of talk about the Dogonalities and this idea around obedience compatibility, because while I say, I'm not really I'm beyond obedience first, then obedience, some of my dogs don't have any obedience, right? Or very little. And some of them do. Why is that? Well, thank you for asking. It's because of their unique Dogonality. So very quickly, in case you haven't, or you need a reminder of the Dogonalities, we have right brain and left brain. This is taken, shout out to Pirelli's Natural Horsemanship and their horsenality. I used their kind of model, but then I adapted it to dogs. So there is left brain and right brain. For simplicity's sake, the left brain is the thinking side of the brain. This is where your dog accesses English as a second language, or those obedience commands that you taught them. And there's right brain. The right brain is the instinctual side. This is the side that has, fight, flight, avoidance, all of those things, prey drive, all the drives inside that. Then we have extrovert, moves their feet, introvert, doesn't move their feet. So when you complete the Dogonality quiz, you're going to get a fun little name, right? Like we call left brain extroverts the life of the party, because they are. And then we have like right brain introverts are your sensitive souls. They're very, very sensitive to everything. Right brain extroverts and left brain introverts, left brains being sort of calm thinkers, all of that good stuff. So you're going to get a fun little name. But inside that, once you take the quiz, you should get a series of emails. If you do not get your emails, please reach out to me. I've been having a lot of problems with that. So, if you take the quiz, get the free info. That's all I'm saying. There's more info that comes with that quiz. Worked really hard on that. So make sure you get all the info. All right. But this is one of those things where some certain dogonalities are going to require a little bit more obedience. And which ones are those, Tracy? Oh, I'm so glad you asked me. There are right brain dogs. Okay, so remember, the right brain dogs are the ones that innately are into their drives, their survival drive, so prey drive and defense drive, and they're in their drives. Fight, flight, avoidance, all of that stuff. If you have a dog that innately, and by innately we mean sort of that's the default, doesn't mean they're stuck there always. Obviously, there's right brain dogs that we can pull into left brain and vice versa, right? But what does that mean to pull your right brain dog into left brain? That means using obedience. What? I know. That's how we do it. When we have a right brain dog, one of the things that we like to do or need to do in a lot of cases is we need to get them to come out of the drive and go into that left brain to start thinking and connecting with humans again. And so the obedience is what helps us get there. So if you have a right brain extrovert dog that's confident, like my Apollo used to be, guess what? He needed some obedience. He needed a lot. He needed a lot of obedience because he was constantly in drive. And the repetitive practice of obedience allowed us to, or I shouldn't say that, it helped him be able to switch from right brain to left brain. Now, full disclosure, when Apollo was in full right brain, like if he was in pursuit of prey, there wasn't any, you couldn't shout obedience commands loud enough for him to hear you, right? But it did make it easier for him to switch back and forth when he had the obedience. Same thing with our right brain introverts, helping them with some English as a second language for them to survive helps a lot. Here's the other thing though, and this is the part that my life of the party dogs, my left brain extroverts, they need to have, I shouldn't say they need it. They like to have obedience. They like to have obedience. In contrast, the RBEs need to have obedience. They like being in their drives, but they need to have obedience to help us pull them out of that drive. Your left brain extroverts, they like it. They like obedience. The reason for that is because part of their genetic coding as a left brain extrovert is to work with humans. That's what makes them left brain. Those are mostly our working breeds, right? That like to move their feet. So your border collies, your Australian shepherds, your shepherds in general, like all of those working breeds, Labrador retrievers, believe it or not, those ones are also working breeds, not just family dogs. They used to be gun dogs. Isn't that fun? Right? They used to go actually retrieve things. Our retrievers, they actually used to go do things. So what made them, why we wanted them, what am I trying to say here? Why we chose the dogs we chose through genetic manipulation, through breeding practices, where we chose the dogs that were listening to us, the ones that were apt to be listening to us, because they need us to be able to do their job. So they have they like it. They like to do obedience. They like you to give them guidance. They like to, and they delight in it when they can please you. It's part of their fulfillment. And some people don't necessarily look at it this way. So these are those times. And again, it sounds like I'm going back on my word. I'm not. I'm just telling you that there are dogs that like it. There are dogs that need obedience. And you could still find the balance of both. You can still find the balance of both. Okay? Let's wrap this up because this is getting a little long in the tooth. So let's reiterate all of what we've talked about here. If your dog already knows what to do, they know sit and stay and come, but they aren't doing it. It's time to go deeper than obedience. Don't give them more obedience. Don't give them different words or more tasks that they have to learn. You need to go beyond obedience. Okay? You don't need a stricter routine. You need a stronger connection. In a lot of cases, right? That's where all of my taglines come from. Be somebody worth following. It's easier to get a dog to come to you when you are somebody worth following. It's easier to get a dog to walk well on a leash when you're somebody worth following. Be somebody that the dog wants to come back to, right? How do you get there? Go beyond obedience. I'm telling you, it's great. You'll love it. If this really resonated with you, this idea, right, of going beyond obedience, I'm gonna again point out that you should be joining us in the Fearless Framework, right? Take the quiz, find out what kind of dog you are, read the emails, figure it all out, and then if you're ready to take that next step, come on over and join us in the Fearless Framework, right? Where we can go even deeper into this connection of going beyond obedience so that obedience is easier. And I do believe that. If you go beyond obedience first, obedience and everything else you try to do with your dog just gets easier. You have a dog that wants to follow you, a dog that you know, gets to be a dog, but you're a part of it. Like, it's just awesome. It's just awesome. That's all I can say. I kind of lost like my whole train of thought when my husband came home and threw everything off. I'm blaming this on Mark. He doesn't listen to the podcast, so it's fine. We can blame it on him. Listen, friend. If you like this kind of thing, again, come on over. Make sure you're make sure you've taken the quiz. Make sure you're part of the free Facebook group to start. Make sure you're connecting inside that group. Share your pictures, share your post, all of that stuff. And then when you're ready to take it one step further, come on over to the Fearless Framework. We would love to have you there, my friend. All right. If you like this kind of stuff, be sure to give us a 5-star written review on Apple, give us a 5 stars and a comment on Spotify, and share it. Share it with your other dog-loving friends. Let them know that we're here, the podcast is here, so that we can reach more and more dog lovers like you and I, hang out together. That's going to be fun. As always, get out there today, my friend, and be the person that your dog thinks you are, because your dog thinks that you are amazing, and so do I. Have a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye for now. Oh, and one more thing. This podcast is meant for entertainment and education purposes only and is not meant to replace hands-on professional training. If you're really struggling with your dog, please reach out to a professional in your area. All right, I think that's it. Bye.